WBME presents Racine and Me, a weekly look at the events and issues for Racine. Now, here is your host from CBS 58 News, Keith Meka.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Racine and Me, our weekly look at events and issues in Racine and Racine County. Well, it seems football is everywhere these days between the Green Bay Packers, Brett Favre and the Vikings, the Wisconsin Badgers, and the state high school football playoffs. But lost in this mix, a very successful local football franchise, the Racine Raiders, a semi-pro football team that plays its games at historic Horlick Field in Racine. Now, the Raiders recently finished up their season, and it was a great one. Joining me now is Don Wadewitz of the Racine Raiders. Don, thank you very much for joining us. So what do you do with the team?
I have a few different roles. I work on the radio team. We broadcast all of our games on radio and via the internet. Also do some media relations work and the website. So a lot of people with the team have multiple roles, even though we have almost 100 volunteers.
That's awesome. And as we just pointed out that the Raiders just ended their season. It was a great one. Let's talk a little bit about how the season went and how you finished.
Yeah, we went 12-3. We made it to the Northern Conference Championship game, played the St. Paul Pioneers, who are now going to be playing in the championship game for the North American Football League. But coming off of a rough season last year, first losing season in over a generation, 30 years, it was great to come back this year, 12-3 record. But now we're working on next year already and trying to bring an 8th national championship to Racine.
So 7 national titles in this long storied history of this football team. Let's go over some highlights of this particular season. Now, your high-powered offense saw some scores, 50s and even 60s at some point. Tell me a little bit about the makeup of this club.
Yeah, you know, we just had a really smart quarterback, Ron Riccardi. He played baseball at Florida State, played flag football at the age of 34, decided to come out and play, 11-on-11 outdoor tackle football, and then just a stable of running backs that was envied by any team in the country. We had a couple of guys that had NFL experience back there. We had a veteran, Brian Jennings Jr., who rushed for over 1,000 yards this year. I believe that's like his 4th 1,000-yard season, and wide receivers that many teams at this level would be envious of. So the offense was just clicking, and there was very few teams in the country who could stop us or slow us down.
Let's talk a little bit about Riccardi, your quarterback. Now, he, as you pointed out, he was a baseball player at Florida State, so he didn't even play college football, but it just speaks to how an athlete can still play these games, especially a quarterback position. You got to expect, somebody who's got a lot of experience, but he was successful nonetheless.
Yeah, he's a guy who went to Florida State. He hurt his shoulder, was going to be a third baseman there, couldn't play baseball any longer, took some time off, and moved up to the Chicago area. Met up with some guys who were playing for various semi-pro teams in the area, and then he decided, hey, I'm going to go out and give it a try. A lot of my friends are playing this sport. Let's see what happens. And he had played some flag with these guys and things along those lines in the area, and he decided that he was going to give it a go. And just a great guy, great character. He's been through a lot in his life, and he just was a real leader on this team. A
rookie quarterback at age 34, and he led you guys, to the conference title game?
Conference title game, so just quite amazing, and he had to battle for that spot. He wasn't the starter right off the bat. There were 3 or 4 guys that came out in the first few games of the season. We sat there and we tried them all out, and eventually he was the one that stood above the rest, and he put the team on his shoulders and brought us all very close to another national championship.
So the Raiders play in the North American Football League. Now, there's a lot of teams in this league.
Yeah, this year I think there are somewhere around 70 teams. It's been as many as 125.
Wow. We
go east to west, north to south, all across the country. The St. Paul team that beat us went to Bellingham, Washington, near Vancouver for their semifinal game, and the championship game's actually going to be held in Miami, Florida. But teams from the East Coast, the South, Dallas area, teams out in California, Washington, Oregon, all over the place.
Obviously some quality football that you guys are seeing over there. Interesting point that you brought up at the top. Wow, they haven't lost or had a losing season in more than a generation, 30 years. And when you have that many teams in a league, that makes that even more impressive.
Sure, and you know, we've been in a variety of leagues. There's a variety of leagues around, but we've been in the North American Football League since 2003, I believe, and it's just amazing, some of the competition. We played this year in the playoffs. We had to play the national champions from last year. In our division for the past 5-6 years has been the Kane County Eagles, who disbanded this year, but they'd won the North American Football League national championship 2 different times. So just a lot of competitive football up in the upper Midwest, and we're happy to see another team from this area in St. Paul down there battling it out with the team from Nashville, and hope that they can come out on top and prove that at least the North reigns supreme.
That's kind of nice that you guys actually have a kinship because of the region that you play. So you are cheering for St. Paul here, huh?
Well, yeah, and a lot of our players, they go on and they play indoor football during the off season, and so they build up a rapport with a lot of these guys from Indiana and Chicago and Minneapolis and those areas. So they know these guys, and they play against or with them almost year-round at this point in time. So, you know, it's just good to see kind of your brethren do well and wish them well, and there's, you know, not necessarily bragging rights for us, but hey, we played in the toughest region of the country, potentially.
Let's talk about the conference game real quickly, or the conference title game real quickly. What happened?
Well, you know, the team was up 9-0, recorded a big sack early on, got a touchdown, went into halftime up 9-7. Ron Riccardi got injured. Our kick returner, Charles Owens, who played at Eastern Illinois University, he led the league in punt and kick return average, had about 6 returns for TDs. He got hurt in the first half. We went out there pretty battered up, and St. Paul just took advantage of it. The first pass that we did in the second half, they returned 57 yards for an interception. We're ready to go into the end zone late in the game. We're at the 12-yard line, ready to potentially tie it up, and boom, 103-yard interception return for a touchdown to end it. So it was just that, you know, the offense was a little off because of the loss of Riccardi, and the special teams were a little off because of the loss of Owens.
So you played this St. Paul team earlier in the season. How did that go?
No, this was the Northern Conference
Okay.
game was the only time that we had played him, but we do have, we've played them every year for about the last 5 years, and we actually have a traveling trophy with them. Nothing like you'd see with Paul Bunyan's axe or anything, but still
Certainly
a traveling trophy.
Okay, Don, thank you. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about the Racine Raiders and how unique this is for the players and the rest of the league, as well as the coaches. Stay with us.